15 years, blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRnetworks.com.
The year 2020. The moon has been explored and colonized, and the next space goal is about to be reached. The first landing by man on the planet Venus.
Cavebabble. Hello and welcome to Cavebabble episode 268. This week's episode, The Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet. I'm not going to make the noise this time. I'm sorry. I just did it last week for Gamera. I'm not doing it again this week.
No monster noise this time?
No monster noises this time. This week's episode is brought to you by Marsha Marsha Marsha.
Oh, we're going to talk about the Brady Bunch movie?
Yes, we are. Hi, everyone. This is Eric.
This is Valerie.
And we're sorry.
Yes, we apologize ahead of time.
There have been many things that we've been sorry for on this show, that we've even said sorry for on this show. And this is probably the worst ever. No, it's not.
But what was our saying that we watch movies so you don't have to?
We suffer so that you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Your results may vary on this one, everyone. We don't suggest you watch this movie.
But maybe tell our listeners how we chose this movie to begin with.
Let's say that you had a movie podcast, and as part of that podcast, when it turns the year 2020, you think, what would be really cool? That's what I said, babe. You remember that?
Yep, I do remember that.
You remember I said, what would be really cool, babe, is if we were to feature science fiction films that take place in the year 2020.
And then I said, why limit it to science fiction?
You said, but why limit it to science fiction films? And I said, because most other genres don't time travel.
Don't happen in the future.
And that conversation was the beginning of the end because...
Yes. We came across this.
Because it sent us down a rabbit hole of titles. I just searched for some titles that took place in the year 2020. And I was like, oh, look, Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet. I was like, I think I've seen that one, but I couldn't.
Well, this wasn't our first one that we happened upon. This was just the first one that we could watch this weekend that was streaming.
Right.
Believe it or not, it was streaming.
Yeah, this one is streaming on Amazon Prime. And so I'm picking up the other one. I guess we can just say we're going to do Real Steel, which neither of us have seen. How have we not seen that movie?
I don't know.
Anyway, we're going to check that one out. That stars Hugh Jackman. That's the robot boxing movie. Maybe that's why we haven't seen it. But anyway.
Seems how neither you nor I are into boxing.
Oh, I'm certainly into robot boxing. I used to watch boxing all the time. What are you talking about?
That is true. You used to.
I don't anymore, but we were going to watch that one, but then we realized we couldn't get it without renting it. There's no reason to rent it when I can get it at the library, so I'm just going to do that. And in the meantime, we said, well, what other ones on this list? And this is what I came up with, and I'm sorry, babe.
I'm glad we didn't pay for it.
I have been known to say that my favorite thing to do on this podcast, I probably said it just last week, is to torture Valerie with bad movies. I like to do that. I like to talk about these bad movies. But there are some that even are too painful for me.
This is one of them.
And this is one of them, but only for certain specific reasons. If we had been watching it in its original form, I might not have had as much of a problem. Shall we get into it?
I guess we shall, because there's one other, the director, which we will get into him shortly, was so disgusted with this film himself that it didn't even get published or posted or anyways distributed with his real name.
Nope. Nope. The director that is listed in the credits is not the actual director. It's a fake-o name.
Yeah, fictitious name.
As a matter of fact, they renamed, not because they didn't want their names in it, but because they didn't want to list the Russian names, I guess. They renamed at least one of the Russian actors in this movie.
Yes, uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So, oh well. You know what? I may do the same because I can't pronounce them.
That might be why they renamed them also. Yeah, the credits are all fictitious.
Okay.
Majority of them are.
Although it pains me to say that we are covering this film, here it is, everyone. Enjoy. What are we talking about? 1965's The Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet.
The year 2020. The moon has been explored and colonized, and the next space goal is about to be reached. The first landing by man on the planet Venus. Scientists profoundly hope that life, similar to that on Earth, may be found on this planet where so many physical conditions are like our own. 3 rocket ships of an international space expedition, the Sirius, Vega, and Capella, after having successfully traveled 200 million miles, are in the final stages of their journey, rapidly approaching their destination.
Okay, here we go.
1965.
Yeah.
That's not what makes this a bad movie, and we shall explain.
What, you mean not everything in 1965 was bad? Is that what
Correct.
you're trying to tell me?
That is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. This is directed by Pavel Klushentsev.
You mean the original one? The original one was,
Yes,
is that the Russian director?
Because, yeah, that was the original director, and I'm going to credit him because this movie is his work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
They just overdubbed it with English.
90% of it is his work.
Yeah, right. And then Curtis Harrington, who was not credited as Curtis Harrington, by the way.
Because he was so, I don't know, embarrassed or realized that he cannibalized this movie.
Yeah, I think that he realized that it was shite. He is credited as John Sebastian in this movie.
He was born in L.A. in 1926, Curtis Harrington, and he began his theater career with working in a movie theater as an usher. And then he became a messenger at Paramount and then a stagehand. And he actually made his first film at the age of 14. He also attended UCLA.
When did he meet Roger Corman? Because that's why he directed this movie. This is a Roger Corman production. It's schlocky. Okay, here's how it happened. Corman acquired the rights to a Russian movie called Planeta Burr, or Planet of Storms. Something. It has like 3 or 4 different titles. And it's a Soviet-era science fiction film. And it's not half bad, honestly. The original is really not that bad. But he took that and then he turned it over to Curtis Harrington, who added English-speaking parts and then dubbed over the Russian from the original film and mashed it all together and turned it into a blobby piece of crap.
Yes. There, end of podcast.
which only aired on television, I guess. That's what. And you thought that when we were watching it.
Yeah, because it didn't seem like one that would be theater quality.
But it's one that comes from a collection. I have one of those public domain sets that has 50 old crappy films. It's part of that set, and we watched it, like I said, on Amazon Prime, and it looked just the same as it did on my crappy set, which is to say there are some scenes where you can barely tell the people's faces. It's just really blobby and washed out in places, and having watched now a little bit or bits and pieces of the original Russian one, which is also available on YouTube if you want to search for that, it looks a lot better.
Does it? So the Russian version is
maybe not a ton, maybe, but it is far. You can actually see the characters' faces and say, "Oh, that's what this was supposed to look like." Oh,
that's what he looks like. And believe it or not, you can still purchase this movie on DVD on Amazon today for $6.98.
Today? You mean
yes,
today?
Today. Yeah, don't waste your money.
Go out right now. Go out right now and buy this. Come on, everybody. Buy this movie.
There are only 3 copies left on Amazon, so hurry, rush. Yeah, rush to get it.
Okay, I'm going to break the rules just a little bit in what we normally do. I normally give a 1 or 2-sentence synopsis of the film, the ones I read off of IMDb. I'm going to do the same thing, but 2 of these have the entire story, which is not, don't let that freak you out, babe, because it's not very long still.
Okay, I was going to say, what?
I know,
Okay.
I know what you're thinking right now, and it's not going to happen. No. I'm going to go ahead and just read one of these, mostly because they're kind of funny. And also because we don't want you to have to watch this movie.
Right.
We want you to imagine
the horror.
Don't watch this one. Watch the Russian original. If you really want
There
to,
you go.
it's the same movie. It really is.
It won't be as blurry as this one you'd actually be able to see the actors and actresses' faces.
As a matter of fact, the woman who plays Marsha in the English-speaking role is just in the same scenes as a Russian actress that they completely cut out of the movie.
Oh, poor thing.
This is just, as one critic called it, this is cannibalism.
That is worst.
It's worst.
That is worst.
Okay, what's Voyage to the Prehistoric Planet about? Those of you still listening at this point. Here it is. In the year 2020, cosmonaut Marsha, played by Faith Derminer, I will explain why I did that with her last name, orbits the planet Venus while 5 astronauts and a robot journey on the surface. Professor Hartman, played by Basil Rathbone, is also on hand. On hand? He's on the moon. On hand to observe the exploration from a distance. Yeah, like from the moon to Venus, that distance.
Mm-hmm.
The explorers are attacked by prehistoric beasts and then lose their robot and nearly their lives in a volcanic eruption. They discover signs of a lost civilization and an artifact indicating that the Venusians had looked human. But what of the strange singing sound they often have heard during the exploration? Yeah, we wonder that too. Do the anthropomorphic Venusians still exist? Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Oh,
there wasn't
part
a part
two of this
2 where they introduced the Venetians? Venetians?
Venetian.
Venusians?
No, they're not from Venice. They're from Venus.
Venusians?
No, Venus, not Venice. Oh, okay.
Oh, wrong movie. Oh, wait.
There's just as much water, though.
Was there?
Well, we saw a whole bunch of it in this film.
Well, was there a lot of water, or was it just, we'll get a slow-moving vehicle?
Let's say there was a tank of it somewhere, and then a whole bunch of shots of an ocean side. So there was all kinds of water in this movie, babe.
Okay, that's true.
We even had a shot through a fish tank, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
It wasn't half bad.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what this movie is about. Yeah, and Basil Rathbone, yes, Sherlock Holmes himself was in this movie. And from what I was reading on the trivia, which is what you do, of course.
Right. Exactly.
Did you read that same thing?
Probably. But go ahead.
He only filmed for like half a day for this.
Yep.
Boy, does it ever show.
Because they were filming 2 films in one.
See, and I don't see her in the cast list for that other one, though, is the only thing. Queen of Blood. Supposedly it was, they used the same costumes and set that they used for Queen of Blood. They just pushed this into it. That Queen of Blood, if you look at the beginning of that movie, it has the paintings, the same kind of, it's the same type of movie. Mm-hmm. But it actually looks like a better one.
Yeah, and that one, Curtis Harrington agreed that it was a better one because he actually kept his name on that one.
Yeah, I kind of skipped through it on YouTube last night, and yeah, it's a much better film than this one. Mm-hmm. For the most, I say much, not, okay. I only say that because it's not the original Russian version. I think if we were just watching the Russian movie, we would have said, oh, hey, they were making a fairly decent sci-fi for the time in Russia.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so who's in this movie? Ugh, who cares?
Well, the people who are in it care,
they do.
But I don't think they made very much money on it. In fact, Curtis Harrington, poor guy, he was a very underrated director. His last film that he did, Ruby, in 1977, he only made $15,000. So he was not a rich director, unless $15,000. But I think $15,000 in those years was still pretty moderate income, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I guess so. For 74? I mean, it was a lot more than it is now. But
well, yeah, a lot more than it is now. But it wouldn't be considered rich by any means.
No, no, I don't think so. So who's in this? Basil Rathbone is in this. Sherlock Holmes himself is in this movie, babe.
He was born, believe it or not.
Yes, he was.
In Johannesburg, South Africa in 1892.
Yeah.
But then 3 years later, his family was forced to flee the country because his father was accused by the Boers of being a British spy.
Yeah.
And he died July 21st, 1967 in New York City of a heart attack.
Only 2 years after this was released, he died of a heart attack.
Yeah, that's how sad he was.
Oh, no. Now I want to see what his last movie was. Did you say what his last movie was?
Oh, I can get it here. Looks like his last movie.
Oh, no.
Was it Hillbillies in a Haunted House?
Yes, Hillbillies in a Haunted House was his last movie. Oh,
and he only made $10,000
Oh,
on that.
Oh, no. How far you have fallen from Sherlock Holmes.
But it doesn't look like, so there again, we've really got to keep that $10,000 in perspective from 1967, because he was in Son of Frankenstein in 1939, and he made, that was per week, $3,500 per week. So that's significant.
Wow. He made a lot of money back then.
$3,500 per week. And then when he did Captain Blood in 1935, he made $5,000 per week. So he was raking in the bucks then.
Well, yeah. Well, what was he making when he made The Adventures of Robin Hood, which is probably my favorite that he's in?
It's not listed. Yeah.
Oh, my God. IMDb, get with the program.
Are you sure it was him?
Yeah, I know he was in that one. Yes, I know he was. For those of you who, okay, I just edited something dumb that I said out of the podcast, and you guys will never know what it is. But
that's why I questioned.
No, don't question me. I know that he was in Robin Hood.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Guy of Gisborne. All right, so that was that. Enjoy. I hope you enjoyed it, everyone. If you'd like to share your thoughts on this movie.
Wait. Yeah, there's still others that you can.
Okay, so Basil Rathbone was in it. Then you have Faith. Now, depending on who you listen to, it's Faith Domergue or Domergue, or let's see here. In 1945, she reclaimed her original name because she used a stage name as a last name, which was not that one. And then she insisted that we pronounce it Demure. So how the heck? I don't know how she said her name. She was one of the original Scream Queens. She was discovered by Howard Hughes. And played in B horror films and was a Scream Queen from that time.
She was born in New Orleans. She was part Creole, primarily of Irish and English descent. She was adopted when she was 6 years old.
Oh, was she really?
And then her adoptive parents took her to live in California. She was educated in the Catholic schools in Santa Monica, and then, of course, went on from there.
Discovered at age 16 by Howard Hughes and signed at RKO Radio Pictures, and went on to do a bunch of sci-fi. Cult of the Cobra, This Island Earth, It Came From Beneath the Sea, blah, 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 and The Atomic Man, all released in 1955, all of those. And she starred in all of them. She did a lot of great work before this film.
So, she was born June 16th, 1924, New Orleans, and then died April 4th, 1999 in Santa Barbara, California. So we were right down the street from her.
Yeah, we were.
Around the time of her death.
Oh,
interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Died of cancer, poor thing.
Isn't that weird, I say, that a Hollywood actress was somewhere down the road from us in Ventura?
Exactly. It was like, I know. It's like, come on.
So strange.
We were only 60 miles from LA when we lived there. So, of course, we ran into actors and actresses all the time around there. That was just what you did.
I had like 3 or 4 doing yard work for us. So, they just would come by. I mean, roving bands of famous actresses and actors, famous actors just coming through and trimming yards. Do you need anything done, they'd say?
Yeah, what hallucinogenics were you on?
And I said, oh, no, Brad, it's okay. Don't worry, Brad. You don't have to do that.
Before he was up and becoming famous, oh, terrible.
Terrible? No, it was great. They did great work back then. Who else was in this? I won't even go through character names. Mark Shannon played in it. Christopher Brand played in it. John Bix did the voice of John the Robot.
I await your
or maybe he wasn't in the suit. That was a Russian guy that was in the suit.
He just did the voice, the American voice.
Louis Keene, and then you get some of the Russian guys. Gennady Vernov played Andre. Georgi, yeah, right. It has a bunch of Z's in it. He played Walters. We had, a whole bunch of people. There you go.
A whole bunch of people.
The Russians. No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Russian actors because really it's their movie.
Because they were good. Yeah, they were good.
But when they Americanized everything, they call it archive footage. Really, it's the entire film. Mm-hmm. And they just dubbed over them and did give them decent credit. And I can't pronounce their names, and nor can I find. I would have to go to the Russian version and see if I could. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It does, but it won't for our show. That's what I should say.
There you go. If you're curious, you could look them up. Mm-hmm.
So Faith, I'm just going to call her Faith because I don't know how to say her last name correctly. All throughout this movie, she is just up in orbit in a spacecraft, which is just a room, and she has a radio. She has a handset that she speaks to everybody on. And all she does is relay messages. She's just like Siri or Alexa. They use her to ferry messages back and forth. She didn't even go down to the surface. She ended up, they were a good thing too. They probably would have died, but she stayed up in orbit, and I guess everything was fine, right?
Yeah, I guess at one point in time she was going to go down to the planet, but then she decided not to. So weird. Here's something that's going to blow your mind, which I guess, So this whole filming of this movie, well, I guess it shouldn't blow your mind because the filming of it was actually done in Russia, but the only location that's credited on IMDb is Chicago, Illinois.
Right.
So that's what Chicago, Illinois looked like in 1960.
Right. In other words, they had a set where they had some computery looking things and some microphones, and that was it. That could have been anywhere. It could have been down here. We could have filmed this in our basement.
Exactly.
So now the Russian part of the film, which is pretty much everything, you have these 5 cosmonauts that are, I guess there are 5 of them, because 3 that are in the car, the floating car, and then the 2 other guys. So they were in 2 different ships that landed. Well, one blew up before it even got there because it got hit by a meteor.
Yeah, so we don't even know about them. Mm-hmm.
No, we don't know who was in that one. But then there was another one because then Marsha was in one. So there had to have been 4 of them originally. Or did she come later?
They really didn't flesh that. I bet you some of the scenes that got cut with the original actress would have given us more of her story. But they didn't flesh that all out.
Part of this doesn't make sense, everybody.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, you have 2 guys that land, and there are the 2 of them and a robot. And I'm always saying all of this just to get to the robot design. I think the robot's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. His name's John, and he's really like beefy. He's it's a big costume.
He's solid. It's a solid. Yeah.
Super solid. Like it's not so much that he's tall. He's not really that tall, but he's like real stocky and chunky. Mm-hmm. He has big old legs and big feet, and around the belly he's like a barrel.
Mm-hmm. And I would imagine the materials, like you said, that they made the costume out of would have been really heavy, though I really can't. There's no trivia that I can find that tells us what the weight of that costume. It could also have maybe not been heavy. They could have just, used a light material.
I don't think so. It's metal, because when they show his feet, which are really cool because they have these kind of like metallic claw type things, but it all looks very industrial. I don't know what they're actually made of, but you just have to see him. His toenails, he has toenails, are really cool looking, but there is a whole piston like between the top of his foot and his leg. There's a piston in there that you can see going up and down,
helping him to walk.
Yeah, it must be helping him to walk, because this thing, it looks like it's made out of metal. It looks like it is just huge and bulky.
I was really offended by,
I'm sure you were.
By the way they treated this poor robot.
John gets the shaft, doesn't
he? Yeah, they treated him like he was just a piece of machinery, and ordering him around without a please or a thank you.
He's a
You
robot.
will
babe.
follow my every command. It's like, what, you hypnotized them? Don't they know that robots these days? Well, I guess maybe in those days, but, they didn't. Robots have feelings,
What would you like to hear?
He was ingenious. They tied ropes to him. They did like a pulley system.
Right.
Where they hook a rope to him and then they hook a rope to this giant tree and his whole torso spins. It's like the top of his body spins independently from the bottom and the rope was in the connection in between them and it worked like a pulley and it pulled things. It looked like it was actually doing it.
Yeah, it did. Mm-hmm.
It was so cool. These are the kinds of, this must be Russian engineering, right?
It was really clever and it worked.
It was very clever.
Mm-hmm.
When you could see it, it looked great. So yeah, thumbs up on John. I like that robot design. He's really cool. So if you do anything, just fire up the movie, go about halfway through and just look at the robot design. He's kind of neat.
Like I said, you got to look at, this was 1964.
Yeah.
Very good representation of a robot. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of cool things, this movie, the original Russian, I should say, film, had to have been, or must have been, inspirational because the second ship has 3 cosmonauts on it, 3 guys, and they spend their time in this floating automobile thing. It looks more like like a spaceship. It's fully enclosed. It has a dome over the top type of thing, and you just have to see it. And it hovers, and it looks very much like Luke's land speeder.
Oh, that's very true. Now that you've said it, yes, very much so.
Imagine his land speeder and then put a top over it. And, it's not exact or anything, but it's the same concept.
Yeah, very true. Didn't think that. Mm-hmm.
And they must have either had small wheels on it or on a track of some sort, because there was that one part where they are just like running behind this rock formations and stuff, and you can tell it's running on a track or something. And then they just have all of this mist coming out from underneath it, so you can't see the wheels or the track or whatever that it's running on. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty darn effective. I think it actually looks decent for that time. This version was 65, so the other one must have been, 64, 63. I don't know when the original was. That's pretty impressive. So there you go. Look, 2 nice things that I've now said about this movie.
So do you want to talk about the sound that the land vehicle makes when it's in motion?
What, you have trivia on that or something?
Yeah, the sound that the land vehicle makes when it's in motion is heard many times in The Outer Limits. The 1963. So they cannibalized that sound that the land vehicle makes.
Roger Corman did that for a lot of his movies. Yeah, they did that all the time. Yeah, as a matter of fact, the robot, whenever you hear the robot speak like this.
I await your order. I await your order.
Listen to that noise that you hear in the background. What's that from, babe?
You
have the trivia. It's from Star Trek. Some of the classic bridge sounds that you hear in the original series. As a matter of fact, here is that sound from Star Trek. See?
Okay, so from the originals,
series. Every time the robot speaks, they put that sound along with it, kind of low in the background.
I await your order.
But you can hear it. So John look, now there's a Star Trek connection.
Yep. So now you can just quickly fast forward to those 2 parts and see if you can recognize the sounds.
That's 3 things from this film, babe, that I can recommend.
A positive.
3 positive things. I am on a roll.
You are. Mm-hmm. And I thought their Brontosaurus model was nice.
Yeah, there are critters. As a matter of fact,
it didn't move.
But wasn't that a weird scene, though? Because the guy just suddenly is up on that ridge standing behind the dinosaur and he's waving. It's like they're doing the tourist thing and the guys are down below taking shots. Oh, that's a good picture.
Yeah, it was very the Brontosaurus didn't. And why was the Brontosaurus up there to begin with? Because Brontosaurus are vegetarians, and usually you see them amongst, places where there's trees, and he was up on a Pride Rock.
Yeah.
And there was no trees around him. What was he even doing up there?
I don't know.
And he wasn't moving. Yeah.
The surface, honestly, again, I can say wherever they filmed this, it was pretty cool. I mean, there were waterfalls, but it was kind of like a blasted otherworldly surface. It was a bunch of rock and mud, and it looked otherworldly. And then they put critters in there. As a matter of fact, that one plant thing that attacks the one cosmonaut when they first come out. That just looks like Audrey 2 from
It does.
Little Shop of Horrors. As a matter of fact, I said, "Feed me, Seymour," when he was being eaten by that thing.
Eaten by that.
Spoiler alert, he does not get eaten by that thing. Nobody dies.
Yeah, I was surprised. Nobody, well, I guess maybe not surprised. Yeah, nobody dies in this film.
Oh, I take that back. There were the guys at the
you're
beginning
right.
when the asteroid hit them, but other than that.
That's right. So they do die. Well, people who we weren't introduced to who died.
Everyone we were introduced to lives in this film.
Yeah, the main characters of this, though, those poor people that, died from the asteroid hit, they probably thought they were main characters, but no.
So that's the whole concept. You have the two guys in the robot, one of the guys is sick, and I'm not sure what he caught. What was that? Was that something from Venus that he caught?
Boy.
Do you remember?
He was getting, dizzy, and isn't that terrible?
Maybe it was the lack of oxygen. I don't remember
It wasn't lack of oxygen.
No, it wasn't.
They did say why he was getting dizzy, and
and it's also one of my favorite parts of the movie because the other team of three that's riding around in the car, they're able to contact them at one point, or at least the robot, and they ordered the robot to go open up a medicine kit that is on the downed cosmonaut, and it just has labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 like medicines just in bottles with numbers on them. And they were like, "Give him a number 2."
Oh yeah, so that whole scene was hilarious with the robot trying to open up. Well, he obviously did open up the container somehow, dumped all the pills on the ground, but was able to pick up one of them and put it in the cosmonaut's mouth, and then then what they did after. So then follow it with a drink of water.
Oh my god, it was hilarious. The whoever's in the robot suit, he takes this canteen of water and he just pours it all over that guy's face.
Yeah, the robot, just drenches the guy. So
into his open helmet, by the way. He's pouring this directly into the guy's helmet and it's going down inside his suit. And the guy's
and the cosmonaut's not totally out of it because he is able to open his mouth to receive the pill and then has his mouth open so that some of the water does eventually get into his mouth.
It's like he was trying to drown him. He just poured it. And I thought, okay, they don't have much mobility in that suit, obviously.
It's like, okay, because the robot wasn't told how much water to give to the cosmonaut. Here, just revive him with water is what he was instructed to do. So he did.
I kept saying about that robot, I was like, not to body shame, but that robot has a bubble butt. Or not to body shame, but John really needs a pedicure.
Yeah. He probably needed the wide base to keep him from toppling over, I would imagine.
I like Marsha because her name at one point, the other guy, the one that wasn't hurt of those two that are with a robot, he's
Sherman and Kern, is that who they were? Sherman and Kern
Kern, Sherman.
Oh my God, their vaudeville act was amazing. Sherman and Kern, you should have seen Sherman and Kern on the road. It's the Sherman and Kern show. I think that's who it was. So Sherman or Kern, I don't know which is which. He's going, Marsha.
Marsha. Here is Marsha.
Marsha. Marsha. If only I could contact Marsha. And all I could think was this.
Marsha.
Marsha.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Marsha, who just existed to be contacted and relay messages and stuff.
Yeah, she was like a Lieutenant Uhura, for communications. Yeah,
we just heard her name over and over again, whether she was saying it or someone else was saying it. Was just like, Marsha this, Marsha that. It was pretty funny. This movie has some of the worst science technobabble I've seen in a movie. It's
awful.
Really bad, and I don't think in watching part of the Russian one, it wasn't much better in the Russian one. But they just describe things. Okay, I'm in Sector 43. We need to go to Sector 72 or whatever.
Well, it wasn't even sector. Square.
Oh, square. That's what it was. It was just, yeah.
It wasn't even sector. We're going to land on
true.
square 76.
Well, a sector is just a square, I guess, if you map it out that way.
But at least sector sounds more scientific than square.
But you have no concept of how far anything is from anything, because it was like, we're on square 23. We need to go to 70 whatever, and it's across this bay. And I was like, oh, really? How far is that?
So how long is it going to take to get there? And I think even one of the cosmonauts said, I don't know. We'll get there when we get there type.
Yeah, right. It's like, how long will it take? Well, yeah, right. Yeah,
however long it takes.
Yeah, I'll have to find that part because that was pretty darn funny. Yeah.
How much time before we get there?
Who knows?
It's like, how the hell am I supposed to know? We're on Venus, you idiot.
A rhetorical question didn't need an answer.
It depends on how quickly this thing floats. So the other guys, the other three that are trying to make their way to the Kern and Sherman show because they're late for the show.
They got, obviously they went down at separate times.
They're in their flying car, which becomes a sinking car because they go out over the water, because of course it can float over the water too, fly above the water. But at one point, a pterosaur, a pteranodon, whatever you want to call it, some dinosaur, pterodactyl attacks them in the water. And to get away from it, they sink, which Marsha somehow sees on her little scanner thing.
That they're gone. And she's depressed. And that's when she decides she might want to land and help out. Mm-hmm. But anyway, they sink down to the bottom of the ocean, whatever sea this bay that they're at. And then we're treated with an underwater sequence that looks like it was shot from the other side of an aquarium with them just walking around on a set. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty obvious, and it's really funny because as they're walking, they're just kind of doing the swim motion with their hands. But there's obviously nothing there. That was pretty funny. So there's another thing that you can look forward to. Mm-hmm. But that's the whole swimming scene.
But that's the whole gist of the movie. They're trying to get back to the guys, and then a volcano erupts at one point, and the two guys climb onto the robot's shoulders, and then he walks, and they order him to go through the lava.
Don? Yes, I hear you.
Carry us across the lava.
And then partway through, he's like, I've exceeded 500 pounds. I need to lose weight. And he's going to dump one of the one of the cosmonauts into the lava.
It's not that the fact that he, couldn't he have detected that he was exceeding his weight carrying like right off the bat? But no, he's got to wait until he's in the middle of the lava stream.
Right. He could have let them know.
All of a sudden.
Oh, danger. By the way, if I step into this, I might have to lose one of you.
Correction. John did not exceed his weight capacity. It was the heat that reached 500 degrees. He needed to drop weight in order to walk faster. Poor John.
But of course, they're saved at the last second, and the robot isn't, and he goes down in the lava. And that was the end of the robot.
Mm-hmm. Expensive piece of equipment to be leaving behind, but it became incorporated into, Venus minerals.
Yeah, exactly. But while they're under the water, the guys with jumping back, when the guys were down under the water, they saw a statue of that pteranodon thingamajiggy, and it had a ruby for an eye. I couldn't tell that was a statue. Could you?
I couldn't until the very last second before they went on. As it pulled away, I could make out finally the pterodactyl's face and the with the ruby eye. But it wasn't until because as they were looking at it, saying, "Look, it's a statue," and "Hey, look, it's a ruby eye." It's like it is, but then when they finally pulled away, it's like, okay, now I see it.
If you watch it again, you will see that it is obvious. And once again, poor John.
I liked how the one guy, they said, "Come on over here. I found something." And he tells him, "Hey, here's this, this statue, and it has rubies for eyes." And the guy said, "How do you know that?" And he says, "Because of this." And he pulls his hand away. He was covering it with his hand.
Yeah.
Look. And there's this ruby. Oh, and now it's gone again. And look, there it is. And it's gone again.
It's back. It's gone.
See, I can do this all day. But also because they were matching it to what they filmed to add to it or whatever, but everything is zoomed in further. That's another problem I had. When you watch the Russian, a lot of the scenes are slightly backed out a little bit. It's like they had zoomed in on it like full frame. like had taken a widescreen image and then done a full frame thing to it. So that's probably another reason why it's blurry in our vision, because they literally are blowing it up and adding it to footage. So
now, of these three that were in the hover car, the Andre seemed to be the one that was the most, I wouldn't say necessarily adventurous, but he was very focused on finding the source of that woman's voice.
Yeah,
he was very starstruck by her, and really wanted to, because he thought at the end of that voice was going to be this gorgeous, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
So that's what his focus was, and that's what got him in trouble with the Venus flytrap, Audrey 2 plant, and what almost got him in trouble. I was expecting him to get in trouble there under the ocean too, because he discovered that the cave that wasn't just a cave, it looked like it actually had been human made.
And he wedged himself in there, and that's where he found the quote unquote rock.
Picked up a special rock, which you don't find out what's so special about it till the very end.
Nor could you tell what was special about it and why he chose that from all the others.
Very true.
But they all heard the voices. It wasn't just him. There was singing some of woman's voice out every now and then. There's that voice again.
That voice again.
Hold up. Almost sounds like a girl.
We must find her. And he was in danger a lot in this movie, and he didn't give a rip.
Yep.
He would just laugh it off and, here, pose for another shot with my camera, type of thing. And he was the one that went up on the ridge with the dinosaur, wasn't he?
I thought so.
So dumb. Anyway. Oh, the two guys, by the way, the Sherman and Kern show. At one point, they are attacked by these little dinosaur dudes. They look like T-Rexes, but human size. And they attack them. So there was another prehistoric. I mean, it is the prehistoric planet. So they have to get attacked by dino something or others. They fight them off, and then they never come back again. That's the last you see of them. Or did you see him again? I didn't see him again.
No.
So apparently they fought and killed the only ones that were there.
Right. Yeah. And it was so blurry, I really couldn't tell. No. But it looked like creatures that were walking on two legs.
Oh yeah, they were just like people it was like you said, creature from the Black Lagoon costumes.
Yeah.
But they were more dinosaur, like kind of like little T-Rexes, and they jumped on them.
Killed the only Venusians left on the planet. I mean, that's what I thought, okay, these guys are scientists. They're exploring a new planet, and you're going to shoot, and like when they came across the Venetian flytrap, you're going to kill, and your first response is to shoot it and kill it. It's like, no, a scientist wouldn't do that.
Yeah. And of course, it's no sort of ray gun, because this is 2020. We don't have ray guns, right? Not really, anyway, that we know of. But yeah, so they're just firing bullets at them. They didn't have any laser cannons or anything. It was just firing projectiles at things.
Yeah, they didn't even try to come up with any. Yeah, it was just a regular gun. Yeah, pistol.
The two dudes, I already mentioned that the robot was used as a pulley system, but that was also probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, because they pull this giant tree down so that it can fall over this big ravine. And then the one, either Sherman or Kern, I can't remember. I can never keep them straight. I can't remember if he's the funny one or the straight man in their show.
Right, which one was,
Anyway, he says to the robot, play some music.
Play some music, to march across by.
What? What would you like me to play? Well, whatever, essentially marching across the tree like a bridge music. And then you have this long shot of them, obviously little models that they're just kind of pushing along on this tree. And they're crossing this ravine with this dumb music playing. And it sounded something like this. And it was probably my favorite part of the whole film.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that they said, that they asked the robot, play some music while we walk across this bridge. It's like, Really?
And that makes me want to go to the Russian film, go to that same scene, and see if they play music in that part.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, I'm going to play a little bit of the music that comes at the end of the Russian movie because, oh my gosh, it's hopping stuff in comparison to the end of the American film. As a matter of fact, it sounds something like this.
Планета бурь, до скорого свидания, к тебе вернутся наши корабли, ведь нас не зря зовут сыны земли, ведь нас не зря зовут сыны земли.
Woo! Isn't that cool?
It's so cool.
It's so cool. I did like the fact that the one cosmonaut, I can't even remember which one it was, named his triplets from home 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, I know.
He named his children after medication, babe.
A number, because it was just easier to, remember that. Can't remember names.
He had a photograph of them as little babies, and he had a big 1 and a big 2 and a big 3 right drawn right on the top of them. Way to go, dude. Maybe that's why he's a cosmonaut. I think maybe his wife doesn't want him back. I did like when after they rescue the 2 guys off of John and send John down the river of sludge, of lava.
Uh-huh.
When they all meet up again, in rapid succession, they all say each other's names. And I like that part. And I'm going to play it right here.
Sherman, Kern, Commander, Andre.
Everybody calls out each other's names. Commander, Sherman, yeah.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Mary Ellen.
Sing us a song, Kern and Sherman. When they get back to the ship and they're about to leave, there is a message, an emergency message that Marsha had transmitted to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only way that they got this emergency message is they have a reel-to-reel tape recorder that is in their spacecraft, their landing craft. Unfortunately, Marsha decided to send her message at a time when that reel-to-reel was about to run out of tape. Because half of her message just was gone because it ran out of tape.
These recording.
These are the kind of technological problems that we probably should solve in 2020 before by 2020 so that we can go to Venus and not have reel-to-reel voice recorders. You know what Marsha had to say was very important too.
But of course, thinking, trying to do a film in the future, and trying. So, if we were to say, okay, what's the future going to be like? Well, we know there's going to be a whole lot more AI in the future, we think.
Right.
What will that AI look like? So, I mean, I can understand, so what would the communication in a spaceship be when you're filming something in 1965?
Especially if you're trying to give it even a halfway hard sci-fi bent. You want to show some real technology or something. Mm-hmm. But it is, I mean, come on, reel to reel does look kind of funny in a science fiction film.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And, anyway, the big reveal. Oh, we got to get to the end and we have to have the reveal, babe.
Okay, the reveal.
Which one was it that you said? It wasn't Sherman. It was
Andre.
Andre. There you go. At the very end of the movie, things are getting crazy. Things are flooding there all of a sudden. And it's flooding and the earth is cracking right near the spacecraft. So they have to leave quick. Mm-hmm. And they tell Andre, they're like, go turn on the weather unit that's out there or whatever so they can get readings. So he runs out there, opens up the thing, but he can't get the thing open. So he uses his special rock to smack the latch.
He doesn't pick up any of the other rocks that are around him that he could have used rather than using his special rock.
No, he uses special rock.
He uses his special rock.
Yeah, to smash the latch, and his rock cracks.
Oh.
But he's able to get the weather unit working, but then he looks down and... Oh, actually, no, it was inside that he does that, when they go inside again.
You're right.
Was it right then?
Nope, he breaks it apart while he's still on the...
Oh, yeah, because that's why he wanted to stay. That's right.
Yeah, he didn't want to get on the rocket, into the rocket.
He looks down and the rock splits in half, all the way. And there inside is the carved face of a Venusian woman who looks very Earth-like.
Mm-hmm. And beautiful.
And gorgeous, yeah. Beautiful woman. Except she does kind of look unearthly, though. She has kind of a funky look to the face, kind of like a triangular type of thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then there's his proof that there was intelligent life, because they had all these philosophical, was there intelligent life? This is proof. No, it's not. Yes, it is. And then he knows that there is intelligent life, or at least was.
Based on this thing he found in a rock. Yeah.
And he's like, that's what was singing. No, we have to stay. But no, they grab a hold of him, bring him in the ship, and they take off. And then we are treated to one final scene reflected in water next to the sea of a female figure in the reflection, walking up and raising her arms and then just sitting down. And that was it.
Yep, that was it. Yep. So they were probably hoping that this would be a big hit so that they could have Voyage to Prehistoric Planet Part 2. But no, Part 2 was never made. Nor was there probably ever going to be a Part 2. Who knows?
And then the American version ended with voiceover that sounded like this.
And so, man's search for intelligent life on other planets and in other galaxies will continue. For this is the heart and the meaning of that great adventure, the exploration of the universe.
Oh, isn't that nice? And here we are. We're off to explore again.
So like we said, if you are curious, if we have piqued your curiosity about this movie, watch the original Russian one, not this one. Unless you really want to torture yourself. I did stay awake through this movie, but it was a struggle.
I would have liked this movie at least twice as much if it was not so blurry.
Yeah, that I have to say.
Just having that crappy quality of the video just turns you off. I mean, there's some of that you can handle, and it's not that bad. But when it is so obviously taken from a horrible source material and just streamed that way, it looks so bad that you just, you think.
And it was like black and white, and then no, it's not black and white.
No,
then it's black
it was
and
in
white.
color.
Yeah. It's like, but yeah, that's true. What did they call it? Panavision. Piranha. Yeah, pathological vision.
It was in pathe color or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pathe color.
But yeah, it was really hard to watch. And the music, of course, puts you to sleep. Yeah. It's supposed to, build tension, but there was no tension building.
From what I was reading, the music was from a different movie, like Dinosaurus or something like that.
Right.
That someone said, yeah, this is... So they just used... In other words, they spent next to no money on this. And it went straight to television, and that was that.
A lot of times on IMDb, it tells you what the budget was and how much they made. There is none of that information on here.
They paid next to nothing. They made nothing.
That's true. They probably made nothing because it went right to television, not theater.
And Roger Corman had another crappy movie in his stable of movies, and we moved on to the next one. Well, that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would we watch it again? No.
No, I'm not going to watch it again.
It gives a 3.8 stars out of 10 on IMDb, and that's probably being generous.
Like I said before, if you want to watch the Russian original, that's cool. And it is available on YouTube, so you could look it up and watch that. I think it's worth it for seeing the Russian production, seeing the sets that they used and the location shooting they used and the robot they used. There's some clever stuff in here, but in this form, it's just almost unwatchable. So watch that version. If you'd like to share your views on this film or anything else, if you'd just like to yell at us for covering crap,
say cover something better next time.
Write to cavebabble@gmail.com. We will answer you, and we will use your email on the air. We will read it if you want us to, that is.
Yeah.
You may check out our show, cavebabble.com, see our list of shows. You may join our Facebook group, search for Cavebabble Podcast, and ask to join the group, and we will accept you. And if you would really like to help us out, you could subscribe to us on iTunes. Search for Cavebabble Podcast and subscribe. And if you like what you hear, give us a review. If you don't like what you hear, give us a review. We would just like to have you review on iTunes, please. Thank you.
Let us know what you like listening to, what you don't like listening to.
That's right. We are part of the Popcorn and Roses Network. We have a Patreon account. It's not just us. Patreon.com/PNR Networks. Any support you can give would be appreciated. We do appreciate you listening to the show.
Stay warm. I don't, wherever you are, it's chilly here.
Yeah, it's
still above zero, but barely.
It's just, I don't even think it's gotten to 20 yet today. So, yeah. Oh, welcome to Missouri. Yes, it's Weather Talk with Eric and Valerie. Yay! Thanks for all the downloads and listens. And until next week, we're out of here.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Cavebabble.
Don't begin celebrating yet.
15 years, blowing the doors off the competition. Podcasting to planet Earth.
PNRnetworks.com